Hey everybody, it's me, Caitlin, the Michigan Girl. I am here today to do my recap for the latest episode of WandaVision, which aired this past Friday. WandaVision Episode 8, previously on, you guys, it was Episode 8. There's only one more episode coming out, the episode this Friday, the series/season finale. The reason I'm calling it the series/season finale is last week I mentioned that I saw online that Kevin Feige is, according to rumors, looking into doing a second season of WandaVision, which that would be interesting. I'm not exactly sure how they would do a second season of WandaVision, considering that WandaVision itself is leading into the new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man No Way Home, and the next Doctor Strange movie, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Two movies which I'm really, really excited to see. I love Spider-Man. He is like one of my favorite Marvel characters, one of my favorite heroes. And I'm really excited to see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness because this is being pegged as the first Marvel Cinematic Universe horror movie, which I am really, really excited about. I think if there was any MCU character to kind of do a horror type movie, I think Doctor Strange is a really good choice for that. We do have the Sony Pictures Morbius movie coming out, which I think can also be considered kind of a superhero horror movie, but that is being done under Sony and not the MCU, so Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness will be the first horror superhero movie done under MCU. So I'm super excited for that. But like I said, I'm not exactly sure how they would do a second season of WandaVision, considering what it's leading into. Of course, that will all depend on what we see this week in episode 9, the final episode of this season or series of WandaVision. So I'm super, super, super excited to see episode 9. After last week's episode, this past episode that I'm going to talk today, I am also really, 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 really nervous and on edge for episode 9 because episode 8 was kind of heartbreaking, gut-wrenching. It was, I will say the emotional level is somewhere, for me personally, is between Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home. There were a few moments in Spider-Man Far From Home I thought were really, really emotional. They really, really got to me. In particular, that scene where Peter is talking to Happy about how he screwed up and he doesn't understand. He's trying to figure out why Tony put all this trust in him, and Happy is saying Tony wouldn't have done what he'd done in Endgame, wouldn't have made that big sacrifice play if he didn't think that Peter was going to be there. Like, basically, we know that Tony did pretty much everything in Endgame, figuring out time travel, cracking that code, everything. He basically did it to bring Peter back. That was his one goal. And he kind of framed it to Steve, like, yes, I want to bring everybody back. But for those of us who have watched the MCU movies, those of us who know, we know that really the end goal for Tony was getting Peter back, and he did it, and he really truly believed in Peter. So that's why I think of Far From Home as kind of an emotional movie, because you have this teenager who just lost their father figure and is now being told, oh, hey, guess what? You were trained by Iron Man, so that kind of means you're one of our go-to superheroes. And he's just like, I'm not sure I'm ready for that responsibility. And then Endgame, of course, that absolutely heart-wrenching, beautiful superhero film that is Endgame. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. I will say, as much as I loved Rise of Skywalker, Endgame really did beat out Rise of Skywalker for me as my top movie in 2019, and that is so hard to say because I've always been a big Star Wars fan, longer than I've been a Marvel fan, but yeah, that was hard, and it's taken me 4 times to watch Endgame without absolutely bursting down into tears, hysterical crying. But episode 8, previously on, of WandaVision, that was between, the emotional level of that for me was right in the middle between Endgame and Far From Home in terms of the emotional level. I did end up crying. I will say that. I totally ended up crying. It was very gut-wrenching for me to see. And it really kind of, I think, hammered home all the trauma Wanda has gone through in her life. I mean, they really did not pull any punches. Going into WandaVision, like I've talked about Wanda's traumatic past, everything that's happened to her, I knew about that. I knew she had a lot of trauma. I knew she had gone through her parents being killed by a bombing, losing her brother to because he saved Hawkeye and a little boy, did that, and basically Civil War, the family she had found for herself being torn apart by differing opinions, and then in Infinity War having to watch the man she loved being killed twice, once by her hand, then being brought back to life and killed by the villain they were trying to defeat with his sacrifice. That had to be. And then coming back, being blitzed back, and then finding out, oh, one of the people who showed you kindness, Natasha, she's gone. And then the guy who took you into his home, the guy you spent years hating, and then turned around and offered you sanctuary and a place to live, he sacrificed himself too to save the galaxy. And so, and of course, Vision's gone. And it's like, oh my God, she's had all this trauma. Previously on kind of hammered that home, and we saw some stuff we had not seen before in terms of Wanda's past. So like I said, this is a really good episode. I'm sorry, my nose is running now. It is definitely one of my favorites of the season. I think previously on might be currently my favorite episode of the season. And before this, my favorite episode was the second one in the 60s. I love that episode. Quick note, it's funny, I have a shirt for WandaVision that is Wanda and Vision in his human form from the 1960s episode, which was influenced by one of my favorite old sitcoms, Bewitched, which I love, but I don't really watch anymore because I can't find it anymore. I actually was wearing that shirt one day, and my mom saw me, and she went, "Oh, Bewitched," and I was like, "No, WandaVision." So they did a really good job. My mom saw my shirt, and she actually thought it was for Bewitched. And I'm like, "No, Mom, WandaVision." But they did do a Bewitched themed episode. I keep telling my mom she needs to watch WandaVision, even though I know she will not get it in a million years. I'm a horrible daughter, by the way, in case you're wondering. I'm still learning my camera. So, let's talk about this week's episode of WandaVision previously on, and we kicked it off in kind of a big way. We traveled back in time to 1693 to get a little peek at where Agatha Harkness comes from. Now, what's interesting is in WandaVision, Agatha Harkness is kind of being portrayed as the villain, as a bad guy. What's interesting is that's not how she's actually really portrayed in the comics. I did a little bit of research about her, and Agatha Harkness was still a witch. She was still a survivor of the Salem witch trials. But she wasn't kind of this evil, witchy person, in terms of her, like, what she wanted to accomplish. In the comics, she kind of comes off as more of a teacher and a nanny. She was the nanny for Franklin Richards, the son of Sue and Reed Richards, who was an insanely powerful mutant. She's involved with Wanda in the comics during this similar plot when Wanda kind of creates this reality where she and Vision are married and have kids, and Mephisto's involved to the point where Agatha actually removes Wanda's memories of Tommy and Billy because of everything that is happening. So in the comics, Agatha is kind of like a nanny. She's a witch. I don't want to call her an anti-hero. I don't want to call her a villain or a hero either for what she does in the comics. But she is definitely not like the baddie it's kind of seen she is on the show. But again, like I said, I have not really read the comics. I've just researched them because I did want to know a lot more about what WandaVision was based off of. But we do learn that Agatha Harkness was put on trial. We see her being put on trial by a coven of witches, one of whom is her mother, and they give her name as Eva Nora. So she's being punished, and they say she broke coven law, and Agatha's defense was she didn't break their rules. She's just so powerful, the rules bent to her power. And she needs help, and she's pleading with her mother to save her, and the witches decide to kill her for breaking their rules. However, what's interesting is while they start out overpowering Agatha, her powers appear, and she actually drains the life force from the coven, eventually doing this to her mother after she pleads for her mother for help, telling her mother she can be good, and her mother just point blank saying no. So Agatha actually, either on purpose or by accident, kills the coven she belonged to, including her own mother. So that's kind of the backstory we get for Agatha Harkness as we start previously on. Back in present day Westview, Agatha is basically like kind of torturing Wanda trying to get this information because Agatha said to learn illusion, to learn all this magical stuff that Wanda has done to create the hex has taken Agatha years and years of training and study, and she can't achieve what Wanda does, and she calls what Wanda has done magic on autopilot. Basically, Wanda has created this environment using magic where it's just running on autopilot, and she wants to know how Wanda has done that. How did she do that? And Agatha actually admits that she created Pietro. She calls him Pietro. And she said the issue is that she couldn't actually create a true Pietro, the Pietro we see in Age of Ultron, which is the one we know from the MCU. She had to create a fake Pietro using a different body because she couldn't access the real Pietro's body. But because Wanda has been so traumatized and she's so grief-stricken, she was just willing to believe that guy was really Pietro, which we know that Wanda really, I don't think, really believed that was actually Pietro. She was just letting herself believe that, but she knew it wasn't her brother, it was Pietro. Agatha threatens Wanda with Billy and Tommy's lives and basically forces Wanda into the most intense therapy session ever. Basically, going into Wanda's mind and walking through some key moments from Wanda's past. And the first one was a biggie. The first one, you guys, this was when I knew this was going to be a heart-wrenching episode. It was the day Wanda's and Pietro's parents die. We basically see them in their apartment, and we learn that their dad has been selling DVDs of American sitcoms to people in the town. And once a week, they do TV night where they only talk in English, and Wanda gets to pick out an episode, and she wants to watch the Dick Van Dyke Show. So they're all gathered around watching the Dick Van Dyke Show when the bombing happens. Oh my gosh, you guys, I wasn't expecting this. I watched a ton of reactions. Nobody was expecting this. It's just this really sweet family scene, the music, and they're watching the Dick Van Dyke Show. They're laughing, they're smiling, they're having a good time. There's tension building. Then all of a sudden, boom! Like, Wanda and Pietro are just jerked forward out of nowhere. There's a loud explosion. It was so loud enough that I don't like loud noises. Like, I am absolutely, like, they make me jump. Like, it was so loud because I always have my TV up loud, so partly my fight. It was so loud that I literally jumped, sat on the edge of my bed, covering my ears because it was so loud and scared the freaking bejesus out of me. And every single reaction video I have watched for this episode, at least one other person reacting in that video has jumped at that moment. That was, oh my God, like, that was an unexpected moment. And we see Wanda and Pietro hiding in their crumbling apartment with the undetonated Stark bomb. That was freaky. Oh my gosh, that was really, really freaky, you guys. It was scary. And we see a little Wanda reach out her hand as if she could do something to the bomb. The memory stops, and that's when Agatha says that Wanda was a little witch. Bombshell moment here, because in the MCU, the idea of Wanda's powers has always been that Wanda's powers and Wanda and Pietro's powers were the result of the experimentation done on them by Hydra using the Mind Stone. So they've always gone with, oh, Wanda's this really powerful, enhanced individual. Well, she got the powers through experimentation. Remember, mutants haven't really been introduced to the MCU yet. But Agatha's like, Wanda was a witch. So she kind of throws it out there that Wanda's had these powers since she was born. But Agatha says it doesn't answer the question because how were these powers grown? Because they're very simple powers. This leads us into Hydra, the experimentation. Wanda walks in, says her name, and says she's a volunteer. However, here's something interesting. I've always been like reading into how actors say their lines, how it's presented. Watching Wanda walk into that room where the scepter is and the Mind Stone, I get the idea that she really wasn't so much a willing volunteer. I mean, she was there and she obviously believed at the time what Hydra was for. I mean, anti-government, stuff like that. But the way Wanda said that she was a volunteer, the way she just held herself, it seemed to me that she was very hesitant and maybe she'd kind of been coerced into doing this. I don't really think that she was there 100% of her free will. Because as Agent Wu said a few episodes earlier, Wanda and Pietro's experience with Hydra is a little bit more complicated than they just volunteered and were indoctrinated. But she reaches out to the Mind Stone, and it comes to her, and the blue part explodes, and we see the Mind Stone itself. Oh my gosh, there it is. Sorry, my computer went to sleep on me. I gotta move the mouse ever so often. And in the Mind Stone, we see the shadow of what I'm pretty sure is Scarlet Witch, what Wanda will become. That is insane. It explodes, and the next thing we know, Wanda's in a cell watching the Brady Bunch, while the doctors are trying to figure out why the footage is skipping, like we saw in the episodes where it's been censored, like skipping that part. Agatha reveals that the Mind Stone basically is basically what helped Wanda's powers become this strong thing. Basically, if it wasn't for the Mind Stone, Wanda's magical abilities would have withered and died because she wasn't using them. She wasn't being trained. The Mind Stone actually just made them a part of Wanda. So that is really interesting. Next, she says, okay, I need more. I need to know more. So now we go to a moment that really had me start crying a little bit. It was a really, really sweet, touching moment between Wanda and Vision at the Avengers compound shortly after Wanda arrives there after the events of Age of Ultron. She's sitting in her room watching Malcolm in the Middle, trying to lose herself in the sitcom, and she just looks over at the wall and goes, Vision. Like, she knew. Vision was there. Vision comes in and he's doing his best to comfort her, trying to help her. And Wanda says, the only thing that could make her feel better is seeing Pietro again, seeing him. And unfortunately, that's not an option. Then she apologizes for Vision, and she actually says something very poignant. She says she just feels like wave upon wave upon wave. Like grief all this stuff keeps happening to her, and it just keeps cresting over her again and again and again, and she just keeps fighting to stand back up. And she's so tired, and she doesn't know what's going to happen to her. Vision explains that he can't really understand what Wanda is going through because he's never had to go through that. He's never had to experience the loss of a loved one that's so profound that it absolutely leaves them wretched. But then he says something that I think is very touching, that I feel can be very true, is that he points out that he doesn't think grief is really supposed to be like he gets that grief is horrible, but for him, he thinks grief is actually the perseverance of love, that we have loved somebody so much that when we lose them, that's our love for them. That grief is our love for them still there and still powerful enough for us to remember them. So I really, really liked his idea of grief is love persevering. And then he laughs at the TV and he wanted to kind of share this sweet moment. It really hammers home to me why I think Wanda and Vision are the top couple in the MCU. They clearly belong together. They are two individuals who are basically alone in the world and are trying to figure out their place in it. And so they kind of come together, and it's just this instant connection to them. And I love them as a couple. I really, really do. Finally, Agatha takes us to that moment we've been waiting for, Wanda at S.W.O.R.D. Now, a few episodes back, Hayward showed everybody some footage that he claimed was Wanda breaking into S.W.O.R.D. and stealing Vision's body. Surprise, surprise! Hayward lied, because like I said, he's a villain with a capital V. Like, seriously, dude, Hayward is a villain. Wanda goes to S.W.O.R.D., and she actually does not go there to steal his body. She goes there to request Vision's body because she wants to bury him. He was a hero. He deserved to be buried, and she knows his body is at S.W.O.R.D., and this is after everyone is put back. They let her go back. She meets with Hayward, and he shows her, and this is where I wanted to punch that guy through the screen, and I try to be a very non-violent, non-confrontational person. He shows her Vision's body as they are dismantling it. As they are, his limbs, like on different tables from his torso, his head, they are taking apart Vision's body. And Hayward basically says he's going to let Wanda say goodbye to Vision there, and he's not going to let Wanda take him away, even though Wanda points out she is Vision's next of kin. So Vision made her his next of kin. Hello, they were close, of course. And Hayward says, nope. He is made of vibranium. He has a ton of technology. We are not letting you take him just so you can bury him in the ground. And then he does this. He mentions he would also not give it is their ethical duty to not give Vision, and he calls him the Vision, like he's not even a person. Vision's a person. He's a living being. It doesn't matter if he's made of metal and circuits. He's still somebody who has feelings, who has thoughts, who wants to have relationships. He's not an object. He's a person. So he says, Hayward basically says that he will not give Vision to somebody with the ability to bring Vision online. And the way Hayward words it, the way he says it, it really does sound like he's goading Wanda into bringing Vision back online, which we know now is the plan all along. Like last episode, they revealed, episode 7 revealed that Hayward's secret plan was to bring Vision back online, not as a hero, but as a weapon that Hayward could use. Okay, so basically Hayward is goading Wanda, saying you can bring him back, you can bring him back online, you can bring him back to life, and Wanda's like absolutely confused, like, what? No, I don't want to do that. I just want to say goodbye. I just want to bury him. And Hayward's like, yeah, nope, not going to do that, but yeah, whatever. She breaks the windows and she goes down to where they're dissecting Vision. And she just strokes his head, and she says something that this is what made me just burst into tears, I think. Well, not like full-on ugly cry, but really start crying. She strokes Vision's head where the Mind Stone was, and I think it was Infinity War, that scene with Wanda and Vision in Scotland, where Vision says there's like something going on, and Wanda uses her powers to look into the Mind Stone, and she says, I think it was Wanda who says, I can just feel you. And that was one of my favorite romantic moments from the MCU. And this time around, it really just punched me in the heart. Like, it was totally gut-wrenching. She touches his forehead where the stone was, and she tells him that I can't feel you. I can't feel you. And I'm starting to tear up a little bit now just thinking about it. It made me just feel so hopeless and lost, because she has lost, at this point, she has really lost everything and everyone, and it makes me question even more now, where is Clint? Where are the other Avengers? I mean, Clint was probably one of the Avengers she was closest to, and where is he in all this? Why isn't he with her? Why isn't he helping her? Is it her choice, or the Avengers, I don't know, and it makes me hurt even more for her. Because Vision was the one constant she had in her life. And now he's gone. And I'm just like, oh my God. But she doesn't take Vision's body. She leaves, gets in her car, and there's a piece of paper on her passenger seat, and she drives. And she drives to Westview. And we see Westview before the Hex. Westview is a rundown town. Everything is just run down. People are bad on their luck. And she drives to this lot where a house once stood, gets out, takes out the paper, unfolds it. It's the deed. It's the deed to that property. And in a heart, it says, to grow old and together, V. I was like, seriously, Marvel? Vision got them a house for them to share together, to grow old and together. Like, they were planning for their future. Like, they were going to live together. They were going to have a future together. And that's just like, hammers home what happened is so terrible, and the fact that she just wants closure, and Hayward just denied her that closure she needed to move on. And so all she's left off is this grief, and it just takes over. And the next thing she knows, she's just crying and screaming, and her powers come out, and they create the house. They take the town in black and white, and as it continues on, we see yellow separating from the red of her power, forming into Vision. You guys, she created Vision, which does explain why he might not be able to be outside the Hex, as we saw in episode 6. So yeah, that was a moment that just got to me. Like, I have been very frustrated and angry myself, and I've just screamed a lot out. But seeing Wanda do that, it just got to me. Like, how horrible she must be feeling. It was just awful for me to watch her see that and know that really she didn't have any help, because Vision was like her anchor and he's gone. And so she takes advantage of what her powers did. Her powers created this Hex. Her powers created this world where she could be together. And it also explains so much why, when we see her with Hayward, why she's so mad at Hayward. You know, what she's mad because of what he did, of how he was treating the person she loved, of what he did, of denying her closure. And I have a feeling she probably knew what Hayward was doing to Vision. You know, Agent Wu mentioned Vision made a living will saying he didn't want to be brought back online and he didn't want to be made a weapon. Well, I have a feeling that dismembering Vision's body goes against what Vision's wishes for himself after he passed. And she knew that. So I have a feeling that that's one of the reasons Wanda is so mad at Hayward, because she knows. I also have a feeling that Wanda knows that Monica's there to help when Monica comes back, and maybe Monica will help her, but that part just got to me. And then Agatha claps sarcastically and says she figures it out all along. She's gone, and the next thing, Wanda hears Billy and Tommy screaming. She runs out and sees Billy and Tommy with the purple, like, nooses around their neck. This is not a kid show. And Agatha holding them as Agatha's floating in the air in full-on witch form. And Agatha announces that Wanda is a creature, a being, a power that was supposed to be a myth. Wanda uses chaos magic, capable of instant creation. Wanda can basically create anything. And she names Wanda. She calls Wanda a Scarlet Witch. End of show. And then after that traumatizing episode, to make it worse, we get a credit scene which shows Hayward activating something using the drone that Wanda fried with her powers. What he's activating is white vision. That's right. He basically took apart Vision, put him back together, and has created white vision. And for those of you who are wondering what white vision is, give me a few moments and I will bring up the summary of white vision. Alright, white vision. I'm trying to. Alright. White vision, according to the website collider.com, which I had to look it up. I knew at one point in the comics Vision was like all white, which I thought was really weird. But basically, it's a reference to, they reference John Bryan's West Coast Adventures, a storyline called Vision Crest. Vision is kidnapped and disassembled by an international government spy consortium, which is kind of what happened on WandaVision. They recover Vision's body. Former Ant-Man Hank Pym is able to rebuild the synthesoid with a few cravats. First, he's entirely white now. Second, he's technically alive, but only in the computer sense. His emotional attachments are gone. He has no memory of falling in love with Wanda or even what it means to fall in love in the first place. White vision is all basically ones and zeros with no heart. So basically, they just made Vision as a robot. Like, he doesn't have the Mind Stone. He doesn't have feelings. He doesn't have any of that. He's basically what the original program was supposed to be. He's a weapon. And that is so devastating to me because now it raises a lot of questions. That makes me nervous about episode 9 because I want, more than anything in the world, I want Wanda to have a happy ending. I want her and Vision to be together forever. Now, the practical me who knows the MCU knows that 10-1, that will not happen. That Wanda and Vision will not get that happily ever after. That going, since this is based on the comics, that didn't really happen. So I know 10-1 that that's not going to be what happens. And it devastates me knowing that. And I don't want to, and part of me is now sad, and I'm starting to cry thinking about it. Because I love Vision. He is, like, one of my favorite characters. I love Wanda and Vision. And, like I said, I never read the comics, so the MCU Vision is my introduction. The Paul Bettany Vision is my introduction to this character. And I love him. I think he is so cool and dorky, and now he's, like, a lame dad. And that makes me love him even more. Vision is so cool and so amazing and such a caring person. And to think we could lose that Vision in favor of white Vision, this emotionless robot who is really nothing but a computer and a weapon, just makes that sad because I don't want to lose that the Paul Bettany Vision. I want to keep that Vision. I don't want white Vision. I want the Vision I know, the Vision I've come to, like, look at and think, hey, he would be, like, a really cool big brother. He'd just be a cool sibling or a cool friend to have. Like, I would love them to be, like, my friends. And they're characters. I know it's stupid because I know they're fake characters and I'm crying over fictional characters, but that's the thing, is that to me, yes, I know they're fictional, but they also mean so much to me. So I'm just really scared to watch episode 9 this week because I am so terrified that we are going to lose the Vision that we know as Vision, the hero, the kind, caring person, and get a stupid, emotionless robot in return. And I'm worried about what's going to happen to Wanda. I love Wanda. I've loved her since I've seen her in Age of Ultron, to the point that a couple of Halloweens ago, that was who I dressed up as. I did a Scarlet Witch bounty outfit, and I have another one on tap inspired by the 50s episode. Because I think Wanda is just amazing, and she's gone through so much grief in her life, and she's still like this strong person, and she's still willing to fight and stand up and try to keep her head above water, and she's just showing that sometimes that can be really, really hard to do. And I don't know, I'm just worried about what's going to happen to them, and it makes me sad to think about. So I don't know. I'm so sorry that I started crying and my nose is running like crazy, you guys. I'm so sorry. This was not meant to be depressing, but you guys, tell me down in the comments below what you guys thought of episode 8 of WandaVision previously on. Did you guys find it really heart-wrenching like I did? Did you have your questions answered? What questions have you been left with? What are your predictions for episode 9? What do you think is going to happen to Wanda and Vision? Do you guys think we could see a second actual season of WandaVision other than just Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like I said, I'm still getting used to my camera. Also, if you like this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. And if you like the videos I've been putting on my channel, make sure you click subscribe so that you know when I put out new ones. So thank you guys so much for watching. Boy, this was longer than I thought it would be. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I am sorry about the crying. I am sending you all lots of love, hugs, and prayers. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay sane, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, everybody.